Deixa eu te testar pra ver se você luta de verdade. Vem aqui. Yeah!
Greetings! This is Top Tier Tips. Greetings everyone, Force of Nature here from Top Tier Tips, and I'm bringing to you another character guide for Tekken 7. This time we're going to take a look at the lovely Katarina Alves. This poor girl here unfortunately lost both her parents at a young age, so she ended up going to an orphanage and was taken in from some dude that she has like never met. So I mean, yeah, she ended up developing a bit of a potty mouth, so yeah, she uses a lot of dirty language. But as like time went on, she started to get, I guess the two of them started to develop a bit of a better relationship, but yeah, she still kept her potty mouth. So I mean, yada yada yada, her I guess call her foster father ended up going missing, so she thought that joining the King of Iron Fist Tournament 5 would help her at least either find him or at least gain the money to help her find him using those or her savate techniques that she's developed from him. Anyways, from a gameplay standpoint, in general, Katarina is a pretty straightforward character. She could be classified as either a counter hit fishing character or she's basically just a general high risk, high reward character. So if you like characters that can do a lot of damage, but if you end up messing up or you end up making a mistake and you end up getting punished hard, like if you find that kind of playstyle exciting, then Kat may be the girl just for you. But yeah, that's basically what her kind of moveset and playstyle is based around, is hitting the opponent hard for a lot of damage. But because of her relative unsafety and punishable-ness of her moveset, you have to be a bit careful with how you kind of go about things with your opponent. So being able to get a good read on your opponent can allow you to thrive with her beautifully. Or if you're, and she also tears apart. She tears apart impatient opponents really badly. So I mean, so yeah, if you can end up scoring some counter hits with her, then she can just obliterate her opponents. All right, before you even like go about and really end up doing anything with Katarina, of course, my recommendation, of course, is just to take a look at the moves list here. So you can end up seeing that Katarina has a grand total, including the sample combos, of 73 moves here. That is a fairly small moveset. So as you can probably just see from here, Katarina doesn't really have a huge amount of moves to remember. And honestly, because of this kind of straightforwardness of Katarina, I mean, one of the best things to kind of do with her is try not to overthink things. So try and, I guess, limit things to a relative small amount of like key moves or anything like that. Like even the strings and all that aren't really that long or anything like that. But I could just start off with like some kind of pokes right here. Like her 1-1 right here. So her jab is it's a good move. So right here, either her jab or like her down forward one are both really good moves. With both moves do have the capability to be able to transition into her stance. Her stance is Harrier. Normally you would get to it with forward 4. If you press, I think if you press down, you should be able to cancel it. Like right there, you can, I mean, as you can see, you can do it off moves, but 1-1 and down forward 1-1 both have the option to go into it. It's usually a bit safer to go into it off of 1-1 since the first two hits are natural combo, where with down forward 1-1 it goes mid high, so they can duck before you end up going to it. I'll go into the different options from the stance a bit later, but just to let you know that when you're exploring the character, taking a look at the different kind of moves or strings that can transition into Harrier can be quite useful. So yes, her 1-1 string or her down forward one, both really good. And to be able to go along with her kind of high mid, or recommended low is usually her down 3. if you just want cheap, low damage, you just want to hack away, like you want to try and whittle away at your opponent, you can hack at them with down 4 also, but down 3 does have 2 falls with down 3-3 and down 3-4, so you have a low mid and low high. The low high option is safe on block at -4, where the low mid is a little unsafe at -13, but it's nothing really too bad. For another close poke, her 2-2s also is a nice move. If it does connect on your opponent, then you're at, well, aside from if it's a wall, but just let's say an open space, then you end up being at +10. So after this move, you end up being in control. And this move does come out in 12 frames, so this is her 12 frame punish of choice. So anything that's from -12 to about -14, punish with 2-2. For anything that's about -15 or worse, in this case, really, you're just gonna punish with her hop kick, her up forward 4-4, which actually has a extended string too if you want. Like this right here is a really good hop kick. It also could be a big liability if you do use it in a very kind of telegraphed or predictable fashion. Like the first 2 parts of the hop kick are, I think, a bit unsafe around -13. So you can be, anytime a cat player does that, the opponent could just simply punch you in the face or even like 2-2. So you do have to be a bit careful with that. But if you do get to the third hit or anything like the third hit or the 4th hit or anywhere around there, like beyond the first 2 hits, it actually does tend to be safe on block around like -9. So if the opponent doesn't jab you after this, then you can just do that and you usually will be safe. But this move generally is used for either whiff punishment or counter hitting something, or as a low crush. I'll get into her lows maybe like a little later. I'll just try and keep things a bit straightforward at the moment, but I will let you know that a big part of her playstyle is trying to find ways to open up the opponent. I can give you a little hint right now that she does actually have some nice lows. I mean, most of them are quite unsafe, including this one, but her down forward 3+4 is a really good move. I mean, I'll just say straight up, if you need any sort of round ender and the opponent's playing kind of cautiously, this shit right here just I mean, this move almost always hits. I mean, it can be almost across the screen and this move just nails them. So this is a really good poke. And of course, once you get the opponent start worrying about that, then you can start hitting them with mids. My favorite, of course, is good old up forward 4-4 hop kick. You also have up forward 3 is another hop kick. Although this one I think is more of a high crush than a low crush, even though it looks like it should crush lows. But yeah, that's another option. So for low crushing, when in doubt, just go for this. I'll give you a slight warning that this, if your opponent has at least some knowledge of Katarina, this is one of the biggest moves that they look out for. The other one being her low combo starter. So the main thing I try and do with Katarina is try and condition the opponent to look out for either mids like that, or basically any of your strong mids. So basically what you either want the opponent to do is either duck, either crouch too much, or end up staying in a standing position too much. Then you can either annoy them with lows, or if you could try and sneak in this. So be careful with the down 4 or down back 4 and down back 3 to both. I mean all these lows here, I admit, they're all unsafe. They are all unsafe on block, but her down back 4 actually, I mean, can be really dangerous when it ends up hitting the opponent. Like right there was just like a little sample combo off of down back 4, and you could, and if you want, you can even do like, you can do like simple stuff like that and still get like solid damage, and that was on normal hit there for about 66 damage. So I mean, yeah, even though this is actually probably arguably Katarina's riskiest move. I mean, like most of her lows, she can be launch punish on block, and this one, if your opponent's paying attention, then yeah, they should be able to crouch block that easily. But I also find this move to be a very strong high crush. So obviously though, I mean, the opponent doesn't want to get hit with this move. So essentially how I use this move is basically I don't use highs. So anytime I predict the opponent's gonna like retaliate or try and attack me with highs, then you just end up nailing them with that move. But as you can guess, like, it's not exactly a poke or anything, and you do have to try and keep its usage a bit down if the opponent has shown to you that they know how to punish it. If they don't know how to punish it, then you can obviously abuse the shit out of it. But yeah, you have to be a bit careful with that. So because obviously in close, your low pokes of choice will be down 3 or like down 4, but yeah, letting the opponent also keep in mind that your lows are really strong will encourage them to want to crouch block or do jumping attacks or whatever. So as a kind of counter hit fishing type character with Katarina, or kind of like a baiting type character, a big part of her is trying to condition the opponent to try and act how you want to by making them kind of scared of her strong combo starters. So basically her I don't know if I would necessarily say strong lows, but I would more so would say dangerous lows, because obviously her lows are pretty much kind of the definition of like high risk, high reward. So you do yeah, you do have to be careful with them. So like conditioning is a big part of making Katarina work. Before I go on, I will also yeah, I did show the move list earlier. Well, I will give you a little tip I don't think I said earlier that you can display it in game. Just push triangle to show whatever, and there you end up seeing it at the top, and now you can end up going through the moveset. Like with Katarina, hopefully learning their moves, it shouldn't really take particularly long. If you want to go to like the next option, you just hold down the touchpad and press R1 moves you forward while holding down the touchpad. L1 would move you back, so it's just, you can keep this on, and if you ended up wanting it off, then you just hold it down, then like press triangle. But now I'm gonna go on to Katarina's close range game a bit now. I already ended up saying earlier that her 1-1s, her jabs is really good. The main thing I like about it though is that it actually has a fair bit of options in it, and it does contribute to her kind of conditioning game, and I'm going to call it. Basically, there is kind of simple little mix-up on block, although it's not a mix-up in the sense that the opponent has to duck or anything, but it's basically a choice between them going for a high mid with a 1-1-2, or you can go for a high. But if the third hit were to connect on an opponent's block, then you'll be left at +7. If you're at like +7 in Katarina, then basically you could do whatever you want. So I like this. Let me try. I like this string because it's kind of sneaky in the sense that it's one of those moves where you don't really expect it to be so plus on block. So if the opponents push any buttons afterwards, then essentially you can basically kind of just get free. Then you can try and bait for free damage. So after say this actually hits some block and the opponent pushes a button thinking it's their turn, just nailed it. You can counter hit them with this knee here. This is down forward 4. This is basically one of Katarina's counter hitting friends. Another move you can also use too if you like is back 4. If you're at a little bit of, I'm just saying for counter hit in general. If you're at a little bit of range, then yeah, I tend to actually like back 4, even though I know down forward 4 is like a safer option and it's a bit faster. I think this needs about 15 frames, where this takes things a little slower, and I think it's a little unsafer on block, like at least minus 13, though it does technically have a follow-up. Though I don't think that follow-up's delayable or anything, but under most circumstances don't really get punished that much for it. But yeah, if you're within the range, then the knee is usually a really good counter hit option. So 1-1-2 is going to be Kat's like main frame advantage move. But if you're trying to nail the frame advantage, or you're trying to pressure an opponent with that, I find a lot of players like to try and duck under the third hit. So that's when you can nail them with 1-1-1. You also have, I think, other options like 1-1-3 and 1-1-4 with the launcher. I mean, pretty much the only people that really do get hit by this. The only people that really get hit by this launcher are players that are really strongly conditioned or just simply unfamiliar with their. This move, of course, can nail people that duck. But if you just want to like keep things simple, on block you're either going to do 1-1-2, 1-1-1, or 1-1 Harrier. Like right there was one of the Harrier options. That was Harrier 3, which is the low. She also has a mid option 2 there with a 1-1 Harrier up forward 3. So right there is a small mix-up between a lower mid. But of course, if you always end up going into Harrier, then the opponent can usually, I think, jab you out of your options or mid. So yeah, so obviously you have to try and condition the opponent to try and like stay on the defensive end, eat your mix-up, because a lot of times when the opponent does get hit by it, it's because they're being a little overly defensive, and they're obviously are basically what they're doing is they're just being really mindful of your mids. So that's why sometimes you can actually end up sneaking in that low, but it can feel a little gimmicky, and also at times. Let me try it. At times it can be a little hard to. Let me just get it right now. It can be a little hard to tell between that or the low. So yeah, you do have a small little. This is practically a Fisher Price mix-up, but it's still an option, and there are other options out of Harrier too. I mean, going on with the Harrier stance, the safe option actually is the Harrier 1 is the safest option. Harrier up forward 3 I think is also safe, but yeah, I think the rest of the options are unsafe. So yeah, that's just a good thing to keep in mind. All right, now continuing on with. It's still basically kind of fighting from relatively close range with Katarina. Now I'm gonna just go over like right now. Arguably one of her best moves is, let me just slap on. Oh, it's already on. Is counter hit 4, or more specifically counter hit 4-4. This move right here is basically. This is the move that makes Katarina really dangerous, even more dangerous than her up forward 4-4 is. It's just her counter hit 4 string. What makes this string so dangerous is it's a 11 frame high kick. So if you end up doing something that's like if you do something like a jab on a block, or like a down forward 1 on a block, and then the opponent pushes the button. So if now you have an even better counter hit tool than going for her down forward 4 or her back 4. With this though, I mean, you can end up setting up like some really good damage to that. I'll end up showing you like some combos, or at least a combo with it a bit later. But just right now, I just want to let you know that this move is really good. So You can actually, if you wanted to, depending on your playstyle, and if you do have a bit of a counter hit style playstyle, you can actually base your playstyle on trying to hit that move or like this move. Like I'll say right now with Katarina, oh, you could stay in the opponent's base if you want, but generally, depending on your playstyle, there's generally two types of ranges that you're going to be at. You're either going to be like around her, just maybe close to like her jab. So basically the range where you can end up using like her jab, down, forward, 1 or 3. Right there, that's basically you're going to be your high, mid, low of choice with her. Another thing you can do is if you want, you can play from her at range. I mean, I know she is, by some other players, she's considered to be like a bit of kind of like a bully or like brawler character, or basically like her counterpart Miguel. I mean, yes, I too think that Cat essentially is a female Miguel. So I mean, yeah, some people also call her like Miguel's waifu and stuff like that. I mean, so yeah, she's kind of like that. But yeah, depending on if you do have kind of an aggressive bully style and you're gonna harass the opponent with her basically like her 1-1 or her down forward 1 or like her down, either down 3 or down 4. Actually, it's actually not really that bad playing at range. I mean, you won't necessarily get as much damage, but if you can, yeah, it's still on counter. If you can end up just chipping away at your opponent, then what that can do is just basically if you wanted to play a bit of a lame playstyle, what's the whole point of doing this is just to try and annoy the opponents. So what you're doing is that the more you end up annoying with that, it actually ends up applying a pressure, and they're eventually gonna have to come at you. And then, of course, when they end up trying to rush on you to try and get their offense started, and they can leave themselves open to getting like counter hit or whiff punished or whatever. I mean, like generally the opponent doesn't want to get hit by that. Doesn't really want to get hit by that either, or get hit by those. And of course, you don't want to get counter hit by these two moves. So playing a bit of a range game isn't that bad. I mean, she has her down forward, her down forward 3+4. I mean, which I've been going over because this move is just godlike. And even if you want it, to connect some counter hit, you get a free down back 4 also. I mean, I don't even know if I even gone over that move, but around corners, I'll let you know that this move is just crazy good. And then, I mean, this is basically the get the fuck up move. And that move is just really good against opponents that just seem to just like to lie down or anything like that. So yeah, that move is really good. If you do want a safe poke, if you're playing a bit more of a range game, you just her back 3 is basically a low risk, although low reward move, but it is a little poke. If the opponent does run at you, then you can try and sneak in a back 4. But yeah, depending on what you're going with, and of course, depending on the kind of read you get in your opponent, whether if they come off as a type that can become impatient easily, or if they either can be sloppy or whiff a lot, then playing a bit of a lane game with Katarina actually isn't that bad. Even if she is kind of, I mean, despite being a fairly unsafe character in general, she can be pretty... She can lend herself to a close range offensive style too, so... Like for me, I sometimes just go with either aggressive or a lame style based on, like I said, just based on the opponent. So with either option, you can end up seeing like what works for you well, and you can also and be sure to adjust accordingly to the opponent. Alright, if you are playing a bit more of a lane style with Katarina, another move you could use that I actually find is pretty decent for intercepting hasty opponents is her down forward 3-3 string. This one right here goes mid. As you see right there on counter hit, it does 42 damage, and you see it's a nice little chunk of damage for just a 2-hit string. As you could probably guess, the low is really unsafe on block, so sometimes you might just do just 1 hit, and I think you have the option to cancel it too. I mean, yeah, it is a bit of a risky string to abuse, but if you can nail it here and there, it can get good damage, and if you're making the opponent worry about your if you're making your opponent worry about your other moves like the up forward, 4-4, then you can try to sneak in that string a bit. I mean, obviously there's other, you can mix it up with her other lows too, since this one opens up with the mid end. Yeah, down forward 3-3 is another one of those moves that you do have to be careful with, similar to down back 4. I preferably want you to limit its usage to when you're certain that it's very likely to hit. I mean, yeah, you have to be like that with a lot of the kind of moves with Katarina because of how unsafe she can be at times. So yeah, just end up using it based on the kind of feel you get from your opponent, and also of course how well your opponent knows the character too does also come into play. All right, another counter hit move that you can use with Katarina another counter hit combo starter is her down 2. This one here does have some high crush properties, and the move is commonly used also as like combo filler. So yeah, this move right here is an alternative move if you want something a little safer to use on block than using this move as your high crush. So using down 2 is an option if you know like your opponent's going to be using like a really obvious jab or anything, then you can just nail them with this. Like obviously, I mean, down 4-4 always combos on like normal hit, counter hit, whatever, where this one unfortunately only combos on counter hit, but yeah, it's another option for you. All right, we're going to take a little look at Katarina's while rising and crouching moves now. All right, just a little heads up, her low jabs are down back 1 or down back 2, so as opposed to the usual down 1 or down 2, you use down back 1 or down back 2, whatever. All right, so from a crouching standpoint, she has her while rising 1-1. That's her 13 frame punishment from crouch, and it also has it's basically just like her down forward 1-1, so it's still, if I'm not mistaken, has the ability to go into her Harrier. Her 15 frame punisher from crouch is while rising 2, so you get a launch there similar to her back 2. And from crouch she also has down forward 4, which is fairly similar to her down forward 3+4. They both do similar damage. As you can see right here, full crouch down forward 4 does slightly more damage at 24 as opposed to 21 for down forward 3+4. So yeah, those are both good options there. When in doubt, the most common move you're gonna do from full crouch is either full crouch 1-1 or full crouch 4. This move right here is actually pretty nice because when it does connect on the opponent, it gives you like at least like +8 or something. So if this ends up connecting on the opponent, then you can end up like doing whatever. I mean, so basically at this point, what you're gonna want to like try and do is if this move ends up connecting on like counter hit or normal hit or whatever, then you're gonna end up trying to counter hit your opponent with either like a high kick, knee. Technically, you can also use your other counter hit moves, but yeah, when in doubt, just go for knees. It's a nice little close range, safe counter hit move on block. All right, one other move from crouch or while rising that I haven't looked at yet is Katarina's. She can do her 3-string, which is basically just her lightning. Basically just almost all mid kicks and just one high. You can also do this from while rising. These kicks come out in 16 frames, and if I'm not mistaken, the last kick might be slightly unsafe at -14, but if you just simply don't do the last kick, then this string is pretty safe. The main purpose of this string essentially is just to stifle the opponent, and it also can use as a nice wall slam juggle. So no, you can also use this after you like slam the opponent into the wall or whatever. But so basically I use this move. I don't really use the wall rise one as much since I tend to prefer 1-1, but from like neutral or anything, just do like a couple 2 or 3 kicks or whatever just to stifle the opponent. If I'm not mistaken, it should be relatively safe on blocks. So I don't think you can get punished if you just do like a couple of them. So like you can use it also if you are choosing to play a range game and the opponent runs at you. So yeah, you can. So yeah, you can stifle them with that. I guess while I'm at it right now, I'll just end up go over the Harrier just quickly. I mean, I probably went over most of it already, but just to keep things simple, the main options that you could be doing out of it, like I don't really recommend using Harrier that much from neutral. I guess you can kind of use it to try and bait a reaction. Like if you do it off of her back 1, so to enter Harrier from back 1 or from any other string would be you just simply hold forward. If you press like down, I think I might have said it earlier, it will cancel it. But the main options you're going to be doing out of it is Harrier 3 or Harrier 3. Like that's basically the main mix-up, and if you want a safe option, then just go for that. The only time I usually go for Harrier 4, aside from at the end of combos, is if I basically either want to knock an opponent into the corner. Basically, if I essentially have conditioned them to try and block that low, then I might try and sneak this in to either wall slam the opponent or to knock him in the corner. See, this move knocks the opponent quite far back. But other than that, it is unsafe on block, so it's mainly just used as a... Well, it is a mix-up with this, but this option is safer. Like I might have said earlier, also it's like forward, 3. But yeah, for Harrier though, yeah, it's like I said with regards to Katarina, it is good to keep things simple. So yeah, I use those 2 options the most. The one slight thing to be careful of with any variation of like a 4-4-3, including the one from Harrier, is the move can be sidestep. So I generally only tend to do it if I have like advantage, or if I know the opponent's going to be defensive, then I can use it as like a get-in move. She also has a similar move, which is this 4-4-4-3 or run-in 3. Like this move is advantage on block. Not sure the exact. I think it should be around like +5, +6, but. Yeah, but again, to be careful, both these moves can be sidesteppable. So yeah, so you do have to use them a bit at your discretion. All right, we're gonna take a look at Katarina's. I'll just say special moves for now, even though I'll be looking at basically her power crush, which is her forward 3+4. I actually like this move quite a bit. I personally like mid-hidden power crush moves because the opponent can't. Lows technically can beat it out, but unlike high ones, this one can still hit an opponent that goes for a low if it ends up connecting before the low. So essentially, even if the opponent's crouching, this can still hit. Unfortunately, it is actually technically unsafe on block, I think, as much as like maybe -7, but I think if it does push back a little bit. So if you're not necessarily in point blank range when it is blocked, then you may not be punished, but so that's why you maybe have to be a little careful with it in corners. But it does have a little pushback, and if the opponent doesn't really expect it too much, then it shouldn't really get blocked. Because as an hyper armor move, obviously the object of this move is to intercept your opponent's offense. So hopefully you shouldn't be getting blocked too much. Although I find that for opponents that don't really know Katarina's frame data as well, you can kind of get away with that move a bit, but yeah, just to take note that it is technically unsafe on block, but it still is probably, it still is a pretty quality power crush move. All right, as for Homan moves, your primary one will be 4-4-4. Down back 4 also also is a Homan move, and it allows you to get a combo afterwards, but at least this move is a lot safer, and it does cause nice pushback. It's a tailspin move. I mean, you can wall slam the opponent with it, so this is a pretty good tracking move. But when it comes to tracking in general with Katarina, it is actually one of her weaknesses. You have to rely a bit more on moves that track a bit to one side, like her down forward 4 or her 4 can both track to her right side. So as you can guess, her left side's like a little weaker, I think. Despite looking like a circular move, I don't think Carrier 3 really tracks that well. So for tracking you might have to rely a bit on hitting from one side, and of course, if you're in close range, you can use throws to also to stop an opponent from stepping. But yeah, that is admittedly one of Katarina's weaknesses, is that she's not really a heavy tracking character, despite being pretty like string heavy. But yeah, that is it. And I'm not sure what other Homan moves she has, but those are the two main ones. Oh yeah, I'll show you another thing. If you end up knocking the opponent into a corner, so just use whatever. A good kind of go-to wall slam is honestly just perfectly fine with 3-3-3-3-3, but the thing is, whenever the opponent is knocked down in the ground, do down 3+4. So I'll show you again. You get really nice damage off the stomp. It only activates when the opponent is in a grounded position, but even when they get up, the move can still connect, and it does really nice damage. And so if they end up standing up, it ends up just stomping on their foot, so it's a strong low. So I mean, it really kind of complements her wall game nicely. As for being at the wall, aside from doing her 3-string, you can also do 1-1 Harrier 4. Like, you can also do that like as your wall juggle move. That one does do really. If I can connect it properly, it does also do really nice damage. Even though that the damage of 3 is also really good, but generally what you want to do with the wall is Generally what you end up doing at the wall is being able to set up either the down stomp or just keep nailing the opponent like this. Like, obviously, if the opponent's gonna get tired of hitting that, that means that in order to avoid it, well, I mean, a corner you would have to tech roll, but in the open or anything like that during Oki, this move ends up being a mix-up with their lows. I mean, this move is a little riskier, but generally the mix-ups between down back 3 and down back up back 4. So this move is really good though. It's safe on block too. I think at -9, so it's actually a pretty abusable kick. It looks like it looks like a tracking move. I don't think it really tracks. It doesn't really track that well. Like, the opponent can't tech it though. But this is, I probably alluded to earlier. Like, this is the get off. I mean, this is the don't stay down move. The don't stay. Which is kind of surprising a lot of opponents to stay down for Katarina when she has this thing, right? And it's moves like this would still hit you. So yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna be going on to her rage moves now. Alright, Katarina's Rage Art is inputted with 3+4 and looks like so.
Yeah.
Alright, not much to it. It ends up doing a 55 base damage, which is pretty standard for Rage Art. It is a mid kick. It's got pretty decent range too. Can be used in combos. As for her Rage Drive, it comes out of her Harrier stance, so the input should be Harrier 1+2. Interestingly, if you end up hitting it raw, it ends up doing the same damage as a Rage Art. Like you saw right there, 55 damage. It ends up serving two primary purposes. So let me just show right here. An option you can have there is you can use it to gain frame advantage on your opponent. See, it's a strong mid. And the other option is that you can also use it. You can also use it like during combos. Here, I'll show you one right now. Oh, before I go on, I just gotta recommend that if you are gonna use Katarina's Rage Drive for damage, I actually do find that it's can be really dangerous if used like near walls or like within like a wall combo or anything. So yes, so Katarina by a wall with Rage can be really dangerous. Like, check this out. Like right there, that's 106 damage in Rage. If you like, well, if you were to like just connect that combo I did like right there with Rage Drive at a wall. So I mean that's a pretty crazy comeback right there. But yeah, you can also do a combo with like you can also do a combo with her Rage Arts too. Like I'll end up showing you one in the end, but I just wanted to show you that one there with Rage Drive. Like that is just some crazy damage. Alright guys, that's it for now. I just want to thank you for joining me on this Katarina journey. If you have any questions about anything like relating to this guide or just anything at all, then feel free to just mention it in the comments down below. I also have a Twitter and a Twitch account that you can contact me at on top of my YouTube. I'll just give you a bit of a recap that Katarina really excels with kind of a, how do I describe it? Like kind of a bait-in style, a conditioning and bait-in style playstyle, since she's really good at capitalizing on counter hits. So if that sounds like the kind of thing that you're into, then this character might be perfect for you. I also just want to give you a bit of a heads up that I'm not an expert at Tekken, so I'm just learning this game just like you guys, so yeah, that's just one thing to keep in mind. But anyways, this is Force of Nature signing off. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Top Tier Tips.
Corre de volta pra sua mamãe. Ha ha ha!